Good evening and welcome to the Neighborhood Watch Hurricane Preparedness Seminar. I'm Gloria Kelly, the Neighborhood Watch Liaison for the Village of Wellington. Tonight you will hear from representatives of the Village of Wellington, Palm Beach County Emergency Management Division, the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, Palm Beach County Fire Rescue, the Solid Waste Authority, and the National Weather Service. As a reminder, all attendees are on listen-only mode and this meeting is being recorded. If you have any questions during the meeting, please submit them in the Q&A icon, which is visible by tapping your screen on your mobile device or hovering your mouse over your screen if using a desktop or laptop. The icon will appear on the top or bottom of your screen. We will answer any questions at the conclusion of the presentations. The Village of Wellington currently has 21 active neighborhood watch groups. These watch groups serve a variety of functions within the community. Participation in these groups provide members with tools that support the safety of the community. In addition to the Neighborhood Watch Group meetings, we also host village-wide Neighborhood Watch seminars, like this Hurricane Preparedness seminar tonight. Please visit wellingtonfl.gov/Neighborhood Watch today to register for these exciting and educational seminars we have scheduled for our residents. At this time, I would like to introduce Nicole Coates, the Village of Wellington's Director of Emergency Management and Public Safety.
All right, thank you for joining us for the Village's Hurricane Seminar. I'm Nicole Coates, the Village's Emergency Management and Public Safety Director. And today marks the first day of hurricane season, and we have a great lineup of presenters tonight. While we hope for a quiet season, our goal is that you and your families don't panic and are prepared, informed, and hurricane resilient. And I'd like to thank our partners, the National Weather Service, Palm Beach County Division of Emergency Management, Solid Waste Authority, Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, and Palm Beach County Fire Rescue for joining us. They're going to be expanding upon some of the items that I'll highlight in my presentation. Dating back since the mid-1850s, we've known that Florida is hurricane country. And looking back over the past 11 years, Palm Beach County has been spared with no direct hurricane landfall. So it's just a matter of time, and it only takes one major storm to disrupt our lives. And for those who are here in 2019, Palm Beach County was spared with a Hurricane 5, Hurricane Dorian, just 30 miles off our coast. So the time to plan and prepare is now. We'll provide more information later in the seminar regarding specifics to making a plan, deciding whether to stay in your home or seek a shelter, and items needed to build a supply kit. And just a reminder, the disaster sales tax holiday ends June 10th on eligible emergency preparedness items. Also, you should have done your major yard trimming by now and spring cleaning of large bulk waste. Don't wait till a storm arrives to place these items out at the curb. After major storms, our lives can be changed drastically. Here are some safety tips to remember. There may be residual flooding and roads may be blocked. Never drive through flooded roadways. Treat intersections with missing or non-working traffic signals or missing stop signs as four-way stops. Obey curfews, and if you evacuated out of the area, listen to local media for reentry information. Power may be out for an undetermined amount of time, so this means no air conditioning, no lights, and no refrigeration. Telephone service will be out or limited, and this includes 911. So even if your phone works, use it only for emergencies. And be safe. Be cautious of down power lines and standing water. We'll hear more about that from Fire Rescue on safety tips for this season. And after a major storm, a large part of the village's recovery process involves debris management. We generate a lot of vegetative debris here in Wellington, and when these storms hit us, we can see over 300,000 cubic yards of debris spread throughout the village. We'll learn more from solid waste later in the presentation, why it's important for us to separate our piles correctly for a quicker cleanup process. Homeowners should be separating their trash piles year-round in the following categories: household garbage, construction debris such as drywall, carpet, furniture, and mattresses, vegetative debris, and white goods such as refrigerators, washers, and dryers. I did also want to touch on insurance. Before the storm, make sure you review your coverage annually with your insurance agent and know your coverage limits as well as your deductibles. Take pictures of your home before and after the storm, and this documentation will help you if you need to file a claim. After a storm, inspect your home for damage and report to your insurance agent or your insurance company immediately. And repairs, when help arrives, don't sign repair contracts until you've checked out the contractor, and don't pay in full for services until the work has been completed. Ask for a valid contractor's license. You're probably wondering what Wellington is doing, and Wellington does a lot. Prior to the storm, the village has established contracts with emergency debris contractors and mutual aid agreements to assist in the recovery efforts. With the assistance of grant funds, we've done numerous hazard mitigation projects, ranging from roadway and drainage improvements to generators at lift stations. And the village coordinates with the multiple agencies, including the Sheriff's Office, Fire Rescue, the Division of Emergency Management, also including FP&L, local hospitals, community groups such as homeowners associations, and as well as water control districts such as the South Florida Water Management District. And throughout the year, our Surface Water Division ensures our canals and drainage system is clear of obstructions. Prior to landfall and during a major storm, the village will activate its Emergency Operations Center. The EOC activates a call center that's staffed 24 hours before and during the storm. So if needed, residents can call 561-791-4000 and speak to a live representative. The village will also continue to provide communication from village officials throughout the use of the storm, such as social media, press advisories, and signage. We want you to see the important contact information on our screen, and after the meeting, we'll be sending out our 2022 Hurricane Guide to all the participants on the call. And the village wants you to stay connected. You can like us on Facebook and Twitter or download our new Go Wellington app. Also, the village utilizes a mass notification system called Alert Wellington. So please be sure to register yourself by visiting wellingtonfl.gov/stay connected to receive notices such as boil water or road closures. Thank you, and now back to you, Gloria.
Thank you very much, Nicole. At this time, if anyone has any questions for Nicole, please do not hesitate to type them into the Q&A chat or the little chat box. We will be answering those. Okay, I don't see any Q&As just yet, but our night is young here at the seminar. Next, I would like to introduce Mike Jankowski from the Palm Beach County Emergency Management. He is the Emergency Management Specialist.
Thank you very much for inviting me to this seminar tonight. It's always a pleasure to be able to come out and talk to the community and help make sure that we're prepared for the hurricane season. I am Michael Jankowski with Palm Beach County Emergency Management, and I'm going to kind of go over some of the steps that you can take to be prepared for the hurricane season. So first, let's discuss what a hurricane actually is. Well, a hurricane is a large rotating storm with high-speed winds that generally form over warm waters in the tropical areas. And as we know, the hurricane season begins today, June 1st of every year, and it ends on November 30th. Tropical watches and warnings. So a tropical watch is an announcement that sustained winds are possible within the specified area within 48 hours. A warning is the announcement that those sustained winds are expected somewhere in the specified area within the next 36 hours. But the big thing to remember here is these watches and warnings are a lot different than some of the other types of watches and warnings that we get, especially this time of year with severe thunderstorm watches or flash flood watches. Those are usually a lot more imminent and requiring us to take actions like sheltering quicker. The tropical watches and warnings give us a little bit more time to start getting ourselves our final preparedness before the tropical storm winds should arrive. And while we're talking about some of the flooding, I want to mention storm surge. So storm surge is the sudden rising of water from the ocean and pushing onshore. This is really the most dangerous part of a hurricane or a tropical storm, I should say. Most of the damage and most of the injuries and fatalities that are reported are generally from the storm surge. So what steps can you take to prepare for the hurricane season? Well, we want everyone to make a plan, build a kit, get involved, and be informed. So making a plan generally means you should know what zone you live in, if you're in a flood zone or a hurricane evacuation zone. There's two different kinds. One is the flood zone is generally areas that we know are prone to significant flooding. And those could be pretty much anywhere around the county. The hurricane evacuation zones are primarily along our coast, whether it's along the Atlantic coast or even around Lake Okeechobee, or in some housing areas that might have, for example, mobile home parks and things like that would also be considered in some of those zones. The best way to find out which of your address, whether it's your home or your business, is in either or neither of these zones is to go to readypbc.com, go to our Know Your Zone page, and you can type in your address on both of those tools, and it'll tell you if you're in one of those zones. Making a plan should also get you thinking about if you need to evacuate, where you should go, and how you're going to get there. So we talk about running from the water and hiding from the wind. Running from the water is generally talking about, again, that hurricane evacuation zone. People that live along the coast that need to evacuate from that dangerous storm surge. Hiding from the wind generally means that for most of our homes and today are built with a pretty solid construction that we would be able to shelter in place. So you want to think about, do you need to evacuate, or are you going to be okay staying at home? And that's a decision that you really have to make. But if you do decide that you're going to evacuate, we want people to think about evacuating miles, not hundreds of miles. What this means is, thinking about going maybe somewhere further inland or somewhere that's going to be further out of that danger zone area. If you do need to evacuate, think about going to a friend's house or a family member or a hotel or even one of our shelters. Just keep in mind that hurricane evacuation shelter space will be limited. It's limited to about 20 square feet per person. That's about a 5-foot by 4-foot box. So you can see there's not a whole lot of room, especially if you're somebody like that's about a 6 foot tall. It's going to be a little bit tight in there. Just enough room for you to have some bare essentials for just a few days. But we have to keep in mind that there's going to be a lot of people from those evacuation zones that are going to be taking advantage of those shelters too. So our special needs shelter program is a program that's available in Palm Beach County to provide citizens with certain medical problems and conditions a place to stay during a hurricane. Conditions such as somebody who might need an IV pump or oxygen or certain things like that. The special needs shelter is a very good place for those to go, especially if you're concerned about losing electricity or power or any of your utilities at home. And we have our pet-friendly shelter. This is a shelter for our fur babies, because we know if we're going to evacuate, we want to make sure that our pets are going to be taken care of as well. The big takeaway here is both the special needs shelter and the pet-friendly shelter do require people to pre-register. So the screen, I'm going to leave the screen up for just a couple of minutes so you can take that information down. For the special needs shelter, you can go to readypbc.com or call us at the Emergency Operations Center at 712-6400, and we'll help you get yourself or your loved one registered. The pet-friendly shelter is available through Animal Care and Control through Palm Beach County, and their number is 561-233-1200, or you can go to their website as well. So making a plan also means you should have some sort of a communication plan. Make sure you understand and know how you're going to stay in touch with family members and friends, especially if everyday methods of communication like our cell phones are not available. Be sure that you also include family and friends that are out of town. I especially mean on this one is so the 2004 hurricane season, I was living in Ohio, and when the first storm came through, my parents who were living down here, I was able to talk to them after the storm and everything was okay. But what happened a couple of weeks later, the second storm came through, And again, I did the same thing. I tried to call them. I'm 1,800 miles away in Ohio. This time there's no answers, no phone number, no cell phones, house phone, my brother's phone. Well, what ended up happening was after the first storm, they had some damage to the house. And when the second storm came, they decided they needed to take shelter. So they went to the local hurricane shelter, but they forgot to call. So you can see why this is so important to me, that you make sure that you let out of town people know that you're okay, so that nobody worries. It can be as simple as grabbing your cell phone and changing your voicemail. Something like, "Hi, this is Mike. We're going to a shelter. I'll call you when I can." This way, if cell phone power goes out or you're unable to charge your phone, at least when somebody calls your cell phone number, they're going to get your voicemail and at least they'll know where you are. So we talk about building a kit. That's our second step. What should you pack? Well, especially this is for your home emergency supply kit. You should have water, 1 gallon per person per day. And it's recommended that we have a minimum of 5 days worth of supplies. When it comes to water, don't forget the pets also. So it should actually be 1 gallon per person and pet per day. Canned foods, such as snacks, vegetables, things like that. But if you do get canned goods, make sure that you get a can opener and put that in your kit. Or as an option, you can also grab those pop top cans that they sell at the store. I love those because that way you don't need to have the can opener. Make sure that you have a battery powered radio or a hand crank radio, flashlights, extra batteries, personal hygiene supplies, maybe baby wipes so that you can kind of give yourself a sponge bath while we're waiting for everything to get back. Books and games. This is going to be especially important, especially for the little kids, because if we don't have power or TV for them to watch, and we're in that kind of waiting zone for things to get back to normal, nerves can get frayed and kids get very bored very fast. Having things like board games or coloring books or puzzles, things like that will keep everybody busy and occupied. Make sure you remember to have baby food, formula, extra diapers. Again, pet food. It's important that we remember our pets. And don't forget also any medications that your pets might take. Something like if they have heartworm medicine or flea medicine, make sure that's in there. Your paper products, such as plastic utensils. Not going to be able to wash dishes, so you want to make sure you have something that you can eat on. And of course, having extra cash on hand. This is going to be important, especially once stores that are on generators start reopening. They may not be able to take credit cards if the internet is down, and ATMs may not be working. But if you have cash on hand, you'll be able to get things like gas or food or building supplies. I just recommend keeping small denominations. I skipped over the prescriptions and over-the-counter medications. Make sure that you have all of your medicines on hand. Florida Statute 252.358 is a very important thing to know. This means under certain conditions, there has to be a state of emergency declared by the governor, and he has to include this caveat in that order. You can go to your pharmacy and get a 30-day refill on prescriptions, even if you just had them filled the day before. So make sure you have things like identification. Make sure you have at least 2 forms of ID, maybe your driver's license and a utility bill. This will help you with that reentry process should your neighborhood have sustained some damage. That way, if law enforcement isn't allowing everybody in, you'll at least be able to prove that, yes, this is my neighborhood. Having your insurance cards, home renters, flood insurance policies, lists of those medications. Pictures and family memorabilia is another important one. And pictures of the house and property, as Nicole mentioned earlier, that will help you with the insurance process, the insurance claim process, if you have any damage. So getting involved is our third step. We want everybody to get involved in the community. An involved community truly is a resilient community. There's plenty of ways to volunteer, whether it's through Palm Beach County Division of Emergency Management, our volunteer program, or the Community Emergency Response, or the CERT team. CERT is a fantastic program made up of volunteer citizens that are trained on life-saving skills and preparedness skills as well. You can always go to readypbc.com to find out more ways that you can get involved. But also getting involved means helping your neighbors locally. We've all heard the term in the past, neighbors helping neighbors. Maybe we can help each other with preparing. If you're going to the grocery store this weekend saying, I'm going to go to the store, can I get you some more water? Do you need help putting your shutters up? Helping with evacuation. Does somebody in your neighborhood need to register for the special needs shelter? Can you help them with that? Can you help get everybody together and maybe carpool to a shelter if you decide to go? And then helping after the storm. Here again, we want to make sure that we're checking on everybody. Hey, is everybody safe here? Can I get you any supplies? I'm going to get more water. Can I help you take your shutters down? We want to make sure that those shutters come down as soon as possible. Again, it's a public safety thing. If there's an emergency in the house, the fire department needs to get through. So lastly, being informed. That's our fourth step. Signing up for Alert PBC, listening to your local media, downloading our DART app, and social media are great ways that you can stay informed. So Alert PBC is Palm Beach County's emergency alert notification system. Similar to what Nicole mentioned about the village of Wellington, you have a special program. This is like a larger version of that. But you can choose what type of notifications you wish to receive, how you wish to receive them, whether it's phone call, text message, or an email. And you can choose to receive multiple locations. I have my Alert PBC, for example, set up for my home, my office, my wife's office, and my parents' address. That way, if my parents don't hear their phone go off or they're not watching TV when a tornado watch happens to be announced, I can at least call them and let them know. And you can also choose what time of day you wish to receive alerts. We typically will not send out an alert between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. But if you wanted to shut that off at 7 o'clock at night, you'd be able to do that. You can simply go to alertpbc.com to sign up. It's free, and all of your information is 100% safe and confidential. Being informed means listening to your local media before, during, and after a storm. So what happens though if the cable's out and that's our only means of getting television? You can go to most electronic stores and get one of these small little inexpensive antennas. It goes right inside your house, plug it right into the television, just follow a couple of quick instructions, and you can receive your local media absolutely free on the antenna. Plus, this is also going to help when it comes time for the kids to want to watch something like Sesame Street or something like that. Again, keeping everybody occupied. Our DART app, our Disaster Awareness and Recovery Tool. This is an app that's free for both Android and Apple phones. And it will help you to plan and prepare before an emergency. And it will also help you to report damage after an emergency. So by preparing, you can see on the screen here, there's a list of evacuation zones. There's also a list of shelters that you can go to if you needed to know where your local shelter was. And there's information on how to make a plan, build a kit, and get involved. You can also report damage to either a business or a home. The more information that people as the community is reporting back to us at the Emergency Operations Center, the easier it is for us to know where we need to think about sending help and starting that recovery process. And finally, following us on social media. We're on Facebook at Palm Beach County Division of Emergency Management. We're on Twitter at PBCDEM, and we're also on Instagram at PBCDEM. And of course, there's always our webpage at readypbc.com, where we also have for free, you can download our hurricane planning guide that's available in both English, Spanish, and Creole. It's a 32-page document, but you can download it, print it, and it will help you get yourself prepared. And that is all I have for my portion. I'm going to go ahead and stop the screen and turn it back over to Ms. Kelly. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jankowski. Again, if anyone has any questions, please do not hesitate to type them into the Q&A icons at the bottom of your screens. Next, we have Charbelle Cadiz, Palm Beach County Fire Rescue's Fire Safety Specialist.
Awesome. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having Palm Beach County Fire Rescue be a part of this important get together to go over all this valuable information. So it's always a privilege and great to be a part of doing this with y'all. So I'm excited to talk for a few minutes to everyone tonight, just to give you some tips and just share some things on our end as a fire department and what we're doing now to prepare. Our chiefs do work around the clock a lot of the times with preparations and getting everything in place. So we always love to just reaffirm and let the civilians know that we are trying to be as many steps ahead as possible when it comes to storm season. So we do have multiple chiefs, for example, right now that have been working hard and still working obviously now to get ready as this storm season started. And hurricane season is not wasting any time with what's going on out in the ocean water right now. So we have chiefs covering everything from logistics to operations to planning, district chiefs working with battalion chiefs and deputy chiefs all working together, making sure that we're ready to go in the event that we have to respond to anything going on after the storm or getting ready in preparation to prior to. So with that being said, some things for you to keep in mind and get ready for now as well. First thing is Sam's Club, Walmart, Target, anywhere you can go, it's still pretty quiet. So we want you to get out there and go and get whatever shopping, get whatever essentials you need now. That's something that we always reiterate. That's something that we always repeat. For example, I had just came back yesterday night. I went out, took my family out, went and got some essential items, and it was empty and it was beautiful. So you want to try to go before it starts to get in panic mode, or when people start trying to all go at once with getting gas and getting all these items. So, do your best to be as efficient as possible, taking the initiative and trying to get out there and getting everything you need. So a couple things that I'd love to go over with you tonight to start off with would be smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms. That's one of the biggest things that we always want to make sure you have working properly. So a couple pieces of homework. This is the first piece, is to go to every smoke alarm in your home. Please go ahead and test your smoke alarm. Every smoke alarm and CO alarm, they all have test buttons. So you're going to hold down that test button and make sure that they're working properly. A lot of the times we found that the little chirping sound that the smoke alarm makes, which is one of the best sounds that everybody really likes to enjoy. It's an excuse for them to rip out the battery. And now at that moment, you no longer have a working smoke alarm. So that's your earliest defense mechanism to let you know that there could be a potential fire in a home, especially if you are a heavy sleeper, if you are on the other side of the house and there's something going on and you wouldn't know unless there's a working smoke detector. Please make sure that you have new batteries in every device that does need batteries. If they are interconnected, make sure your wiring is proper. Make sure there's no faulty wiring, that there's no damaged wiring. So having an electrician come out to make sure that all that is up to date is very, very helpful. We recommend that you test smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms once a month. If you were to change batteries, you can do it every time change, for example, is a good recommendation that we are communicating to everyone. Every 6 months you can change out your batteries. But your interconnected smoke alarms, for example, make sure that every single one is changed, because in the event that you do lose power, you do have that backup battery option to make sure that your smoke alarm is working properly, along with your CO alarms. If you have generators, if you have golf carts, if you park, any vehicles inside of your garage, anything like that, it's great to have a carbon monoxide alarm available, because carbon monoxide, as many of us do know, it's a silent killer. You cannot see it, taste it, smell it. If you have that carbon monoxide alarm and you hear that tone go off, that's telling you to head outside. You want to head outside as quick as possible. If any of those tones go on and they sound on, we want to make sure that you have the earliest defense to let you know that there's something going on in the house. Please make sure you have a proper fire escape plan, pretty much a fire drill for your home. Make sure you have at least 2 ways out of every room, typically a door and a window. So another piece of homework for everyone tonight is to go check all your doors, check all your windows, make sure that everything is functioning properly. Windows are closing, they're locking properly, hinges on the door are working, anything that needs to be repaired, repair it now. A door, for example, works in your favor as a barrier for at least 20 minutes, keeping the door closed in the event that there could be a fire on the other side of that door, taking a shirt or a sheet and tucking it in at the crack at the bottom to prevent any smoke coming into that area. That's a barrier in your favor for at least 20 minutes. So we want to make sure that you have those doors working properly. Knowing at least 2 ways out. It's a great activity that you can do with your family. For those that have family members in the household with you, you can make it as an activity to draw your fire escape plan on a big piece of construction paper or a whiteboard, something like that. In the event that you do have to evacuate for any reason, you can draw a little blueprint for your house, for example, and have multiple color arrows stating your multiple means of egress to go out to your meeting place. And for those that don't know, meeting place is a safe place, such as a tree, a mailbox, or a light post, neighbor's fence, something that will always be there in the front of your house that's away from your house or away from the structure that could be on fire. Okay, so having that safe place down the road, making sure that everybody is there and visibly seen. If for any reason someone is trapped in a house or stuck in a house, or if it's a pet or whatever the case may be, when we arrive on scene, we do ask those questions, or a lot of the time civilians beat us to the punch and they will let us know right away that there could be somebody or something in a house that we need to go in there and get. Okay, so but again, having that fire escape plan, practicing it at least twice a year. You can practice it once a quarter, however the case may be, whatever works for your household. We highly recommend to do so, especially when it comes to storm season, power goes out, something catches fire, whatever the case may be. It's a great tool that we recommend that you practice. Which leads me to the next thing, kind of just reiterating a little bit when it comes to shutters. For us, it's very important to have those shutters taken down as soon as it's all clear for you to do so by authorities. Once the storm is passed and it's safe for us, depending on communities, HOAs and stuff too, they always tell you you have 72 hours to take it down. Other HOAs say you got to take it down right away. Our recommendation is to take down those shutters as soon as it's safe to do so. Again, just to reiterate, it's really, in the event of an emergency response, it's safe. It's good for you to be proactive. It's a good way for you to obviously know that you have a safe means of egress, and you're not going to be worrying about being trapped in a house because all your shutters are up. It's easy for you to get out, and it's easy for us to go in the event of ever having to do an emergency response to that household. So removing those shutters, again, as soon as it's safe to do so, is the recommendation. When it comes to storage, a couple of things to talk to you about that. Gasoline cans are one of the biggest questions that we get. Usually we don't want you to go more than that 20 to 25 gallons. If you are storing gas cans, propane tanks, anything like that, recommended primary spot would be somewhere outside in a shed that's locked down safely, that's safely stored outside where it's not going to flip over or any projectiles are in the way, anything like that can cause any type of hazards. You could store them there if you have a safe place outside to do so. A last resort would be in the garage, which I do know quite a few of us that do have them stored in the garage. I myself am guilty of that for 1 year. We had it stored in the garage. If that is the case, please make sure that you have them stored on the ground, not high up or anything like that, away from any flammables, away from any hazards, away from any projectiles, obstructions, anything like that. Please make sure they are away in its own area, away from where you're not tripping over them, knocking anything over. I've had an experience where I thought the cap for my gas can was completely tightened and I accidentally knocked it over and I had gas spill on my garage floor. So you can imagine how happy I was to clean that up. So just please make sure we take things like that into consideration. Make sure it's the correct cap for that gas can. Make sure your propane tanks all have that cover that covers that spout there. Just make sure that, again, that there's nothing around it that can cause a hazard for you. Again, no more than that 20 to 25 gallon. When you are going to fill up, for example, at the gas station, please use the gasoline can. Don't use anything modified, such as garbage bags or waste baskets or filling it up in the bed of a truck. I say these because I've seen them, and so we don't want you to do that. That's obviously not that's not a safety recommendation. That's a big hazard. So we want you to avoid that at all costs. Again, use the proper gasoline cans for you to do so. Another big thing you can do to prepare. All of us have our smartphones. A lot of us can't live without the smartphones, especially if you have little kids. You need to keep them occupied with the games and such. Have portable chargers with you. Charge them now if you have them. Go and purchase a couple of them now and have them charged and ready to go in the event you lose power and there's no way we can charge our phones. So having things like that, battery operated candles, anything battery operated, we would love to have replacing anything. So for example, battery operated candles over actual flaming candles for reasons of being a potential hazard, or a lot of the times we fall asleep and we keep the candle light, the candle light going on and the flame going on. And we obviously want to make sure that that is extinguished before we go to sleep or we leave the house for whatever reason, whatever the case is. But to play it safe, we always would rather you have battery operated candles, battery operated radios, battery operated fans, just everything batteries if you can. Again, if you don't have power, that's going to be your next best thing to do. So anything battery operated, it's the safest way for you to do so. If you are purchasing your non-perishables or whatever you are purchasing to keep stored in the kitchen or in the pantry or anything like that, please make sure that you are not storing anything on top of the stove, especially if that power does go out and we don't realize a burner is on and we have things on that stove and the power comes back and now we have that burner on that could potentially start a fire, right? So that's one of the reasons why we want to make sure that we have it stored in the pantry or somewhere far away from anything that could be a potential hazard for a fire or burning or anything like that. So just please keep that in mind when it comes to storage. Your garage door could be another means of egress. So if you have a garage door, we recommend making sure that it functions properly. There is a release tab that you can pull down on, that you can manually lift up the garage door yourself. So please make sure that is functioning properly, because that could be a way for us to get in as well if for some reason we forgot the shutters or we're not able to get in through another way of the structure. So again, you can check your garage door, making sure that that's working, that they're all working properly as well. Another big thing are generators. Generators, we recommend to have at least 20 feet away or more from any part of the structure. When you do have them stored outside, make sure the exhaust is never pointing towards the house. We want it to face away. On concrete ground or pavers or something other than grass, or something to where it's nice and level on a hard ground. Please make sure that it's one plug for each outlet. So if there's 4 outlets, please don't try to connect multiple power strips or anything like that. We want to follow manufacturer's direction on that, having one plug for each outlet. Same thing when it comes to surge protectors or anything like that. Please do not overload your electrical surge protectors for reasons, of course, for having electrical fires. So one for one. Please make sure we're not overloading it, especially again, we want to try to save and try to use as much as we can when it comes to this hurricane season or any hurricane season moving forward. But please be safe in doing so, because in the event that we are unable to respond, which is something I'm going to touch on right now, we want to make sure that all of us are taking responsibility to making sure that we are safe as best as possible, keeping our families safe. Whoever's staying in a house with us is staying safe. Again, because in the event that we are unable to respond, it would be a tough situation for that civilian. So we don't want to hear anything like that. Of course, we want to make sure that you're taking all the appropriate steps. The way that we respond, usually in the past, it would be a no service over 45 miles per hour when it comes to the winds. Now it's more of a district chief working with the battalion chief. So depending on how the weather is at that moment that a 911 call comes in, that's going to determine if we are able to go out or if we have to prioritize calls, depending if it's a life-threatening situation. We would have to go and respond to that person as soon as the winds die down or as soon as the weather becomes drivable or able to go outside safely for our crews. So that is going back to having our chiefs working around the clock to make sure that they are doing everything logistically possible and for our operations side on how to respond and such. So again,
Charbelle, can I interject here for a moment?
Yeah.
Robert is going to have to leave at 7, so we want to see if we can get him on the call. I know we're busy. We have a active tropic activity out there, so I know he's very, very busy. Would you mind taking a pause and if I can get Robert on the call?
Yep, I was actually done after that. So yeah.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Charbelle. Great information. All right, over to you, Robert. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, everyone. Let me go ahead and share my screen here so you can see my presentation. Okay. Okay, you should be seeing my full slide. Let me know if you're not. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be part of this. Part of these events are really great that we have them in the community. I know in Wellington I've been part of them for a few years now, and of course very timely being the beginning of hurricane season, and even more timely being that we have a system out there that we're watching that could affect us here over the next couple of days. So I'm gonna go fairly quickly. I'm gonna hit on the main points. Nicole and Mike already covered some great stuff that I was going to touch on as well. So, don't have to labor, or I don't have to talk too much about those. But I do want to talk about what's going on out there right now. We have a system of this. It's basically a low pressure area, an area of disturbed weather, as we call it, down in the Western Caribbean Sea off the coast of the Yucatan Peninsula. And right now, the image on the left is a satellite picture. It's a very disorganized area. It's not really, if you look down there at that area, you may be wondering, okay, what's the big deal? There's nothing really there that really stands out. But there's a low pressure area forming down there, and we feel over the next couple of days, which the image on the right is reflecting. The image on the right is the National Hurricane Center's outlook for the next few days, as far as areas that could be forming into a tropical system, either a tropical depression or a tropical storm. So the area in red's the one that we're concerned with. The one in yellow, don't worry about that. That's moving away from us. The one in red has a high probability of formation. So we expect tomorrow or Friday, perhaps, this low pressure area could become a tropical depression. If and when it does so, it's going to be very close to Florida. So, we expect it to move across the peninsula, probably late Friday, or really more likely on Saturday. So ahead of it on Friday, we're expecting the rains to begin picking up, and the heavy rainfall, or periods of heavy rainfall are expected from Friday all the way through Friday night, probably even into a good part of Saturday. So we're not forecasting right now, at least, that this is going to be a big wind event. We could get some gusty winds, maybe even some winds gusting up to, the tropical storm force. Wouldn't surprise me. But the main concern, at least right now, is the potential for periods of very heavy rainfall, which could lead to flooding. And we're really calling for forecast rainfall amounts that could be anywhere in the range of 4 to 8 inches across the area. Again, it could be as little as 3 or 4. It could be as much as 8 over the next few days. So something we're going to have to be particularly concerned about. You heard earlier, to be aware of things just flooding, especially if you're in an area or neighborhood that floods with heavy rainfall. So something that we're going to have to keep in mind. So anyway, we're in communication with Nicole and the and her staff, as well as the Palm Beach County Emergency Management, Mike and his staff. We send briefings out throughout the day, where we have conference calls and webinars. So that's how we keep everyone up to date as far as what's going on, so that we can make good decisions to prepare for this event and anything else that may come down the road. The outlook for this year, we released this last week. This is NOAA's seasonal outlook. It's calling for an above normal season. So these numbers you see here are a reflection of what we expect to be an above normal season, as far as number of named storms, as far as number of hurricanes, and even major hurricanes. As you know, the last couple of years, actually the last few years, we've had above normal seasons, or more active than normal. But we really here in Palm Beach County, we've largely escaped any really big impacts. So last year, we really didn't get anything. Even in 2020, we had some near misses. So we've been fortunate, very fortunate here in South Florida. These are the names. So if this system south of us were to develop and were to become a tropical storm, then it would be called Alex. So, the main thing about hurricane season is, at least the way I refer to it, it's a marathon, not a sprint. It starts today and it goes all the way through November 30th. So it's a long time, 6 months. So, we want to be ready now, but we want to make sure that we stay ready, especially, not just with what we have out there right now, but especially once we get to the peak of the season, August through October. That's our most active period. That's the time of year when in Florida, the vast majority of hurricanes and major hurricanes have hit us in the past. So that's when we really especially need to be ready. And, the seasonal outlook, and I referred to this just a minute ago, it's not a landfall forecast. So, we're not, just because we're giving you those numbers doesn't mean, okay, Palm Beach County is going to get hit this year, or Florida is more likely to be hit. We really don't have that skill to be that precise months in advance. So, the number of overall storms that we're expecting is not a strong indicator of a specific area's actual chances of being hit. It couldn't, we could get hit this year, but we could not. Look at the last couple of years. Very active seasons, but we escaped severe impacts here in Palm Beach County. So again, this graph just basically illustrates that, the amount of storms that typically form in the Atlantic Ocean during the hurricane season peaks in the months of August, September, and October. So that's our busiest time of year, but we can be affected by storms at any time during the hurricane season, which, an example being, what we have out there right now. Nicole showed a version of this, showing you all the activity or all the tropical storms and hurricanes since 1865. What I did here was, though, I zoomed in just on West Palm Beach. So these are the tracks of the centers of all the hurricanes that have passed within 50 miles of West Palm Beach since 1865. So these are for the most part direct hits. So we've had 37 direct hits from hurricanes in Palm Beach County since 1865. So, it may not seem like a lot, but remember, these are direct hits from the center of a hurricane. It's not a common occurrence by any stretch. So we're one of the most hurricane-prone parts of the country, if not right at the top. So this alone should be our motivator to be ready every year, because it doesn't matter what the overall level of activity is. Our history alone tells us that we're prone to being hit by hurricanes. Very important to understand, and I know we all do, that tropical storms and hurricanes are multi-hazard impact events. So yes, the wind is certainly a big part of it, but also the water, the flooding from rainfall. Now, Wellington being an inland community, don't have to worry about storm surge. Those are for areas closer to the coast. But inland, rainfall flooding is certainly an issue. Those of you that lived in Wellington and back in 2012 may remember, or I'm sure you do remember, Tropical Storm Isaac, which dumped anywhere from 12 to 16 inches of rain in the Wellington area, and some estimates maybe were as high as 20 inches. And that was from a tropical storm that was actually on its way out, and one of those back rain bands sat over the area for about 12 hours and dumped just a whole bunch of rain. So we have to be aware, it doesn't take a big storm to provide a big impact. Tropical storms can produce a lot of rainfall, and we've seen that here with past storms, Tropical Storm Isaac being a classic example of that. Okay, I want to talk really quick about, the forecast cone. This is the most widely used map or graphic in a National Hurricane Center's website. So that the cone is good in telling you where the center of the storm is most likely to go. Actually, it's drawn up so that for any storm, for any given storm this season, there's a 2 in 3 chance on average that the center of the storm is going to fall somewhere within that cone. Of course, if you do your math, then that means that there's a 1 in 3 chance that the storm will fall, that the center of the storm will fall outside the cone at any given point during the forecast. So, and also the forecast cone doesn't give you any information on the storm's other hazards. For example, it doesn't give you any specific information on storm surge along the coast. It doesn't give you any specific information about how much rain we might expect, the timing of the winds, and other important factors of the storm that we need to know when we're getting ready for a possible impact. The cone also doesn't give you any information on the size of the storm or the extent of the area it could impact. It just refers to the location where the center of the storm is most likely to be. But some storms can be very large and can cover very large areas and can extend well outside the cone. And that's especially the case as storms get closer to us. The cone gets smaller because the certainty in where the center is going to be is higher, obviously, as it gets closer to us. But the size of the storm doesn't conform to the cone. The size could get larger as it gets closer to us. So we have to keep in mind that there's different potential scenarios, and that's what the cone is telling us. The cone is saying, hey, this storm is likely not going to track near the center where those little forecast dots are. It may go a little bit to the right, or it may go a little bit to the left, and that's what the forecasters are looking at. So when we make a forecast, we're looking at this type of scenario here, where we're considering alternate forecast tracks that can go on either side of the actual forecast line, which is in this case here, it's the white line you're seeing. So we need to take that into consideration, because we can't assume that a forecast is going to be right on the money. So at the Miami Forecast Office, my office, we produce these maps that are called hurricane threat and impact maps, which take the information from the forecast cone. It takes all that information from the National Hurricane Center, and then we break it down to the individual hazards of the storm. So we break it down by the wind, the storm surge, the rainfall flooding, and the tornado threats. We evaluate each of those specific hazards, and we show what the potential impact level is based on not only the forecast track, but taking into consideration any deviation from that forecast track. So what we do here is that we depict a reasonable worst case scenario so that you can prepare for the event that, which a storm could track closer to us than forecast. In other words, we don't want to be underprepared. We want to make sure that we're properly prepared for big events like these in case storm takes a track closer to us. So we evaluate these, we draw these colors, these threat levels based on that range of potential scenarios that's based on science, based on our understanding of what the uncertainties are that are inherent in every weather forecast, especially tropical storm and hurricane forecast. So remember that when you see a forecast and when you see maps like these, remember there's inherent uncertainty in every tropical cyclone forecast. Don't follow that track too closely. Understand that there could be some deviation to one side or the other, and we take that into consideration when we, for example, when we issue things like the hurricane watches, and the hurricane warnings, tropical storm watch, tropical storm warning as well. We're taking into account those uncertainties. Mike talked about the definition, so I'm not going to go into these. So just remember that, again, we take into account uncertainty. We also use these watches and warnings as risk communication tools. These are not we're not saying, we're not drawing the warning for one small location. We're broadening that area to account, again, for the possibility that there could be some deviation from the forecast of that storm. So it's really important, as I wrap it up here, make sure that you get your latest weather information from trusted sources. So we're talking, of course, the National Weather Service, your local officials, Nicole and her team, Mike and the folks at the emergency management, local media. We want to make sure we're getting official information. We coordinate. We're in webinars. We're constantly communicating during these events. So you can be assured that you're going to get the official information. We've already heard, and this is one of the last things I'm going to show. About the dangers of the storm, but we also heard about some of the dangers that can occur after the storm. So a lot of deaths, unfortunately, occur in tropical storms and hurricanes after the storm passes. So what we call indirect fatalities, and these are, you can see some of the causes here: vehicle incidents, carbon monoxide poisoning from misuse of generators, electrocution, people stepping on down power lines. Heat exhaustion. Hurricanes hit during the hottest time of the year often. So if you're without power for several days, you're going to be baking in high heat and humidity. So we need to make sure that we're very careful, not just during the storm, but definitely after the storm. So keep up to date with our forecast. Don't look at one forecast and say, okay, that's the way it's going to be. I'm good. No, make sure you keep track of the forecast day to day, because hurricanes are part of a continuously evolving process. Forecast scenarios always change, either a little bit or a lot. Sometimes a little bit, which is okay. Sometimes a lot, which means, we may have to be ready for a big shift. So that don't fall into a anchoring bias where you're just using one piece of information and that's all you're going to go with. Make sure you stay up to date of this continuously evolving process. And, we're here 24 hours a day. Literally, not the same person, obviously, but we have a team of forecasters to work 24 hours a day to make sure you have the latest information to keep you and your family safe. So with that, I thank you very much. I'll be happy to stick around as long as I can for any questions. So thank you very much, and stay safe with this storm, with this system coming up, but also for the remainder of hurricane season.
Thank you very much.
I'll go ahead and give the screen back to you here.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. And again, if anyone has any questions, please don't hesitate to type them into the Q&A icon. Next, I would like to introduce John Archambault, the Director of Customer Information Services for the Solid Waste Authority.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to participate this evening as we prepare for the 2022 hurricane season. The Solid Waste Authority identifies 3 phases to hurricane preparedness. Those phases are before, during, and after a hurricane event. So before, that plan should be from December through April. We call pre-hurricane season maintenance. This is the time we perform all major cutting and tree removal projects, cut back all trees and weak branches that could damage your home, thin foliage so wind can flow freely through the branches, decreasing the chance that your trees or plants will be uprooted. Clean your yard of any items that could pose a danger to you or your neighbors in hurricane force winds. Following these important pre-hurricane tips will make our Wellington families and communities safer during hurricane season. As we have a year-round maintenance plan, this eliminates the mass cutting at the worst possible time. If we have panic and everyone cutting at the last minute, this places a tremendous burden on the collection and disposal processes, and there is not enough equipment or manpower to handle the additional material before the storm even makes landfall. That means we're leaving a bunch of large piles out there that, if there's tornadoes or anything like that, can be flying projectiles. So it's very important before the storm, have a year-round maintenance program. Major cutting in that type of work should be done December through April. We strongly suggest that you do that year-round or have that year-round maintenance program. During a storm, so when we hear that now we're going into the phase of during the storm, once a storm has been named, do not cut down trees or do major yard work. Do not begin construction projects that produce debris. Once a watch or a warning has been issued, we ask that you please do not trim yard waste at that time of any kind. Do not take materials to the curb, transfer stations, or landfill. Services may be suspended and facilities closed early to prepare for the storm. This again is more reason to perform all your major yard waste projects and trimming between December and April. After the storm, the final phase, this is very important, and I encourage everybody, take a deep breath and have patience. So it is very important to listen and not go out until it's safe. The Solid Waste Authority reminds you to keep house, recycling, and yard waste in separate piles. For sanitation reasons, our number one priority following every storm will be the collection of household garbage. So again, household garbage, we want to get back to normal routes as soon as possible and remove garbage first. That's the number one priority. All right, so have your garbage, your recycling, and yard waste in separate piles. Any construction debris from the storm, we've had pool enclosures, we've had sheds, those types of things, fencing, that must be stored separately. That's called construction debris. That's usually picked up toward the end of a cleanup. The yard waste is picked up first when we have a hurricane event. That is brought usually to a temporary debris site. We reduce it and then haul that off after it's been recycled. So it's important to keep everything separate at the curb. Do not place any debris near or on a fence, mailbox, power line, down electric wire, water meters, fire hydrants, or storm drains. Believe it or not, in the past, we've had piles that were actually placed on water meters that when the big clamshell comes to remove the pile, water is all over the place. So please be proactive and place those piles away from those types of fences, mailbox, power lines, electric wires, and water meters and fire hydrants. It's also important, again, to just remain patient. Everybody's doing the best they can to get the cleanup underway. We want to return our community back to normal in a timely manner, but we want to do it in a safe manner. So again, please be patient. Sometimes, depending on the storm, it may take 3 to 6 weeks before you receive a first pass. I think we've set the bar very high. In 2004 and 5, if you lived here, we had our cleanups done way faster, but I've always said, we haven't had a Cat 3, 4, 5, and that makes a whole difference on that cleanup. So be patient. And remember, it may take 3 to 6 weeks for your first pass. Usually there's 3 passes. And again, on the final one, usually we like to take the construction debris. Our website, if you want, these tips are on our website, and that's www.samwa.org. And especially for all the new residents that are moving to Florida that have not experienced a hurricane, these tips are good to review. Others that have lived here for a while, they know the drill, so to speak. So if you are new, I think tonight has been outstanding. There's been a lot of great information shared to make us and the Wellington community very safe. I thank you very much for your time and for the invite again.
Thank you very much. Again, if anyone has any questions, please type them into the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. This meeting has been recorded, so we will be sharing the link with all of you who are on the call this evening or on the Zoom seminar this evening, as well as we will have it displayed on our emergency management page on our Village Wellington website, as well as our neighborhood watch pages. And we also will be sending out that hurricane guide for you. And we did actually have a question come in. What was the website John just referred to? Do you mind, Mr. Archambault, just stating what website that was again? And I will type that into the chat with the URL.
Oh, absolutely. The website, Solid Waste Authority website is www.swa.org. And those tips are available on our website.
Great. I have placed that into the chat. And again, I would like to thank all the attendees and our panelists who joined this evening for our June 1st Hurricane Preparedness Neighborhood Watch Seminar. Our goal for these seminars is to provide the public safety, the residents with the public safety topics so that you can continue staying in this great hometown and keeping it a safe hometown for everyone. Look forward to seeing all of you on our upcoming seminars. We do have one coming up June 14th. It will be with PBSO. The topic will be gang prevention and awareness. So if you are interested in joining, please register on our Neighborhood Watch webpage. Thank you very much again for joining us, and stay safe this upcoming storm season. Thank you.